Tom Brady is now retired. ... Again, he did so with a tearful, very brief, kind of one person to camera video that was put out on social media, and it struck me. Brady is and you even said it already. Like, if Brock Purdy is going to miss this year, the 49ers probably try to call him and pull him out of retirement anyway, and I don't know if he would do it. But the whole Tom Brady thing yesterday, it just struck a chord for me because it seemed like I thought a lot of you believed in the future of Brock Purdy, and now the idea that even he misses half of a season, it sounded to me like so many people suddenly want to go get a totally different answer at quarterback for the future and for the long term. I just wonder why it's so hard for people to believe in stuff that you don't see coming. Happens all the time. The NFL is dotted with these people. You don't always see it coming. And it happens anyway. The New York Giants went to the playoffs. Jalen Hurts is the favorite in the Super Bowl. Like, there's stuff that happens that you don't see coming all the time. But this was not a small sample. This was 9 football games. It's not a small sample.
No doubt. I have a couple things here. One, the Mr. Irrelevant thing, like, that's not just like Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, we see
Very
this
late,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
We see this kind of stuff. It's Mr. Irrelevant had never even thrown a pass.
I'm not here to tell you this isn't crazy.
It is such a like out of left field. Like, wait, whoa, hang on, pause, time out. The other that it's hard to grasp and be like, okay, yeah, this is a thing now. The other thing is we've also seen, for all the things that you say, dotted. I love that phrasing. For all the times we've seen out of nowhere guys come in and play in the NFL, we've also seen like flashes in the pan. Case Keenum took the Vikings to the NFC Championship game in Philly, oddly enough, and then went to Denver and it just never did anything again. And now he's the backup in Buffalo or wherever he is.
Yep.
So that's the other thing, is we've seen guys have these really great years. Colin Kaepernick, I think, is a good example. Colin Kaepernick had a great a season, a great year, and then just went. Pfft.
Obviously, you could still do a whole show. We've done years on whether or not Colin Kaepernick was a flash in the pan, or if he just never got another shake. Like maybe he was a really good player. And he was for a longer period, right? I mean.
Right.
He had multiple years of great production for the 49ers.
His 2014, and there's a little bit of a difference here, because his 2014 was not as good as his 2013 or his 2012. And his 2015 and 2016 certainly weren't. But the Niners were also a disaster. Like, he got screwed.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Brock Purdy's going to have Kyle Shanahan and this really good roster and this really good coaching staff. So it's a little bit different. But I think it's guarding against, like, man, we've seen players come in and have really good years and then just never be heard from again.
So 8 games is not
Brock Osweiler.
It's not, well, but he never looked like it. They never looked like this.
He got a lot of money.
He did, but see, that's the point. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo became the highest paid player in the history of the NFL based off of a smaller sample size than what we just saw with Brock.
No doubt. No doubt.
Smaller sample size. So 8 games is not 2 seasons, but it's also not 3 games. You still hear people talk about Nick Foles. Go look at his numbers. He got hot in the playoffs for 2.5 games. And he won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You know, we bring up the Jeremy Lin thing, or so many other players who sort of, they had a moment. Like, Fitzmagic ended up getting a nickname. You never watched it, though, for 8 games. Mm-hmm. Fitzmagic was a classic, like, dude, that guy comes in and he comes back and, all right, and then he does it again next week, and you're like, all right, I think Fitzmagic, and then he goes
Crash
8 for 22 with 3 picks. You can't, like, that never happened. This was 8 games and all the scenarios. Home, road, from ahead, from behind, good teams, bad teams, playoff games, not playoff games. Like, you saw almost everything. Mm-hmm. You saw almost everything. You didn't see the Super Bowl, and you didn't get to see how he actually would have played in a full NFC title game on the road. But he was thrown a lot of different scenarios. He pretty much looked pretty similar the whole time.
I tend to agree with you on this. That's why I don't want to sound like I'm coming across.
Yeah.
I'm of the belief that if Trey Lance does not show out in OTAs and camp, that Brock should be the starter next year. And I think the Niners would be really good. But you look at that Dallas game against a really good defensive line. And the Niners' offensive line didn't play well, and I get all that. But there were multiple plays there. It was like, oh boy, like that wasn't great.
Sure.
I mean, there was Brandon Ayuk had to defend an interception, and Trevon Diggs just straight up dropped one in the red zone. Like there were plays there. There was one play where he rolled left and then like ran backwards toward the other end zone.
He does
like,
run backwards.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I do.
So
if there's some, would like to eliminate the run backwards play that Brock likes to do.
Yeah,
yes. He's not perfect.
Right.
However, in those, like there was a stat that got my attention in that Dallas game. I went, oh, you know what? Now I'm actually a little bit impressed by what you did. There wasn't anything great statistically. He won the game, but there was that stat where he was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks, and it was the most that had happened in 3 years in a 49er game, and he didn't turn it over.
Right.
I was like, okay, bro, that's some veteran stuff right there.
Yeah.
You don't turn it over when you're literally half the time that you drop back, like Micah Parsons is in your face, and you handled it, and you won the game. That's worth something to me, especially for a guy who's in his 8th game.
And that's totally fair. Like I said, he played well enough that if he was the starter next year, you'd be like, yeah, the 49ers are the favorite in the NFC West, and they might be the favorite in the NFC, depending on how the offseason goes. Like, for sure. But I don't think it's off the table either that if he starts all 17, they go 9-8.
I have not decided that Brock's a superstar. That's not what I've decided.
Okay.
I have decided that Brock Purdy is a very viable, productive NFL starter.
That's fair.
That's
I think that's fair.
I'll define it that way.
Who can win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think, Nick in Ohio is next up. Hey, Nick, what are you doing?
Hey, I was just doing a little artwork here.
Sweet.
Hello?
What are we doing? What are we working on?
Oh, I do collage and mixed media, and
could you make me a collage of Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo together throwing footballs?
Oh my God, please don't.
I have to feel inspired. But anyway,
go ahead, Nick.
I want to make a quick comment about Purdy, but first of all, I'd like to give some props to Kyle, because I noticed when you guys have the transition from one show to another, you guys are always talking over each other. Everybody's talking at once, and it gives me a headache. But I noticed when Kyle's about ready to comment, everybody's quiet. But he always has something very good to contribute.
Kyle disagrees. He thinks I interrupt him all the time. But I
was going to say that, but that's fine.
Yeah. Nick, I think that you can understand what we're all trying to say. You got four big mountains in one room, and no different than you and your friends. If you're having poker night or a bunch of people over for drinks, there's going to be a word or two on top of each other, and we all survive. But anyway, did you have a further point than that?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think you're overstating this thing about fans who originally were for Purdy, but now they're showing their true colors. I think it's more like they're just panicking, a la Guru. And that's my comment.
Well, thanks, Nick. Well, that is actually my point. I think you just helped me make my point. You're like, well, don't say that. They're just panicking. Right. That's what I'm saying. Stop panicking. Now, maybe your point is this is just kind of an emotional response because of what took place Sunday, that people actually aren't giving up on Brock Purdy. Listen, I guess if that's your point, all I'm trying to do is let's think this out together. Let's think it out so that we're living in a realistic world, not responding to a moment in Brock Purdy's career with let's go get Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr or something that is now going to prevent. I mean, can you imagine? Go down that road with us for a second. The 49ers go get a big-name quarterback here in this offseason. You just did two things. I guess you did three things. One of them is you can be a Super Bowl favorite. Cool. Mm-hmm. Here's the next thing that you did. You just ruined your massive financial advantage that you have on the league for the next 3 years. And you also just decided that Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are now totally blocked out for their entire rookie deals.
Right.
That's bananas. That's an awful idea on every level.
I think awful is too strong.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to block these guys
no,
out?
No, I wouldn't do that. But if that's somebody's mindset of like, dude, I don't think Brock can win a Super Bowl, and I don't think Trey can do it. So improve at the quarterback position. Or maybe you think Brock Purdy can, but you're like, man, I think Aaron Rodgers will. In fact, if he's here for 3 years, I think we win 3. Like, if that's the mindset, improving at quarterback is the best thing you can do in the NFL.
Well, okay, I'll grant you that, but then Trey Lance is not on this team.
Right,
like, I mean,
right.
Before
there's
you discuss
fallout
that
from that decision for sure.
The discussion of that starts with 2 things. Brock does need a total reconstruction, and you think Trey stinks. If that's Kyle Shanahan's opinion, then we have a different conversation. Sure. I don't think that's Kyle Shanahan's opinion.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan and you're looking at, okay, they've lost consecutive NFC Championship games, and all I want them to do, I saw this on the Xfinity mobile text line earlier. I meant to mark it and I didn't, so I don't know who it was from. So shout out to whoever it was. They said, I don't care. I don't give a damn who the quarterback is. Win a Super Bowl. I want to see a quarterback hoisting a Lombardi trophy.
I think we're all that's
right. So
sure, that's what a fan does. Yeah, we want to win.
Right. And not saying you don't or I don't. Like, that's what everybody here wants. But if that's your mindset and you're like, hey, screw the cap, screw the financial advantage, I don't care about Trey and I don't care about Brock.
Well,
Aaron Rodgers or whoever, who is the guy to get us. Like, I get that. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But I understand the sentiment.
We've all established, it's been established on this show, like that point, that larger point comes up sometimes. And I get that I'm a little bit different than some fans. I don't want to sell the whole next 10 years to win one. I don't want to do that.
Sure.
I don't want to do what the Rams did.
No.
I think the Rams are about to go through hell. I don't want the 49ers to go through hell. I would just be good every year. Take your chances that here and there you're gonna break through and be the last team. Yeah. That's what I want I don't want you to I don't want you to be awful for 9 years because you won one.
We also have a big enough sample size now, I think, under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and Adam Peters and this entire kind of regime. They had nothing when they got here in 2017. And in 2 years they were in the Super Bowl. And 2 years after that, they were back in the NFC Championship game in consecutive years. They've shown a penchant with largely a core that has grown, and then they fill in other spots. To me, you don't need to make that big swing at quarterback because your front office and your coaching staff has a penchant and has shown the ability to build a roster around a quarterback who's at top 15, top 20, wherever you want to. I don't want to get into where does Brock rank, but in that kind of realm,
9. Sorry, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
He's in that realm, and they've shown the ability to build a roster around that. And then you look at their assets; they're back to having a first-round pick in 2024.
Yep.
This year, they're going to have 10 picks. And when you look at
is that pre or post D'Amico?
D'Amico will convey in 2025.
Not till then,
right? Because they got 2 for Ran Carthon, who got hired by the Titans as the general manager. So you get 2 for that. You don't get 4 if the coach and GM get hired in the same hiring cycle.
But doesn't it overlap once? D'Amico will start in 2024, no?
No.
No?
No.
Sure?
Yes.
Okay. I believe you.
So it'll be 2023 and 2024 for Ran, and then 2025 for D'Amico.
Just 2025?
Yes.
Not 2 of them for 2026?
When they get hired in the same hiring cycle.
Got it. Okay.
3 instead of 2 for each. Does that make sense?
It does.
So they're gonna have 10 picks. And when you look at Fred Warner and George Kittle and Elijah Mitchell and Talanoa Hufanga and Diamador Lenore, like this roster is littered with Spencer Burford started a bunch of games this year. This roster is littered with dudes that are late day 2, day 3 picks.
Oh, yes.
And they've built teams around it.
No doubt.
They're in a good spot. The Niners are in a really good spot.
Jonathan